Okay. Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Welcome. Thank you, thank you. Welcome to our fourth class in this 6-class series. In the first class, we covered the metaphysics, the separation. In the second class, we covered the separated self. Wasn't that right? Yeah. In the third class, then, we covered the 7 relationships. The relationships that, when we talked about relationships, everybody jumped into the relationships that they have with other people. Those are not the relationships that we discussed, Nancy. Because the relationship that you have with the body, that body then has all the other relationships. Isn't that so? Mm-hmm. So if your relationship with the body is not true, what does that mean that all your other relationships are? This is why we have so many problems with relationships, is because we quite simply don't have a true relationship with ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we have those 7 relationships, and the relationships were with the body, with the world, with the split mind, with the right mind, with the higher self, with the Christ self, and with with God. I think that was God speaking there.
That was God reading.
That was God speaking there. So today what we're going to do, this is probably one of the most important classes of all, because all the other classes so far has only been information. Okay? Information at the end of the day is only going to satisfy your curiosity. And we're all very curious when it comes to having our questions answered. Okay? But there must come a time when you say, I've had enough. I know enough. I need to actually start doing. Because nothing changes if you're not doing. If you're always thinking, if you can't think your way to enlightenment. Why? You can't think your way to awakening up. Why? This is important.
Enlightenment is beyond the mind.
Of course it is. Because the thinker is still not the true self. Like the beautiful line in the Course that says, the problem is not what you think, the problem is that you think. So you can see now why you can't think your way to awakening up. So practice has to come into this. So what we're going to discuss today is basically ATF, Advanced True Forgiveness. We're going to do complete forgiveness. We're going to do simple forgiveness, and we're going to do self-empowerment. And we're going to go through each one of those. Now, the problem that I have come across with most people who are studying the Course and also practicing forgiveness is they have forgotten one very vital part when it comes to forgiveness. Anybody here practicing forgiveness? Yeah?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Trying.
Can you answer this?
What is projection? That is when we judge others when they're behaving like we are, only we don't realize that we're behaving that way also.
Right. Textbook.
That's right.
Textbook.
That's actually what you see
Yes,
happen.
of course. Well, good. Right. But that there is basically the cover version. What's happening with projection under the surface? What's really happening? Anybody know?
Uneducated guess or educated guess that we're projecting out what we don't want to look at in ourselves.
Again, that's correct. Again, textbook.
Textbook.
Okay, anybody else? Nancy, you say you were practicing forgiveness?
Well, like you said, trying.
Yeah. What's your understanding of projection?
Well, when I look at you and I start judging something about you, actually what I'm seeing is how I'm judging myself.
Why do you do that?
Probably because I don't want to look at that it's me. It's much easier if it's you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Could you add that it's an opportunity?
Of course it's not. But everything's an opportunity.
So projection is just what we're in denial of.
You see, ultimately, forgiveness is the correction And people think for projection, but it's not really, because we're projectors. We're projecting all the time. And we always project what we believe to be inside. So, when we're in the ego thought system, what do we believe ourselves to be?
Separate.
Separated, guilty, and fearful. But we deny that. Okay? That's a part of the unconscious mind that everybody has. And it doesn't matter what religion you have or what philosophy you follow, if you're here in this world and in a body, you believe you're separate. It's that simple. And if you believe that you're separate, then guilt will automatically follow. You can't have one without the other.
Why?
It's a metaphysical law that when you separate yourself from anybody else or anything else, then you break the law of one. The effects of that then or the consequences of that then has to be either guilt or fear. What comes into play then is basically the script that that person has written. Because everybody here in this room and everybody in this world has got tools. And they're the ego's tools. And they deal with the guilt and they deal with the fear. And if people have got very specialized and good ways of dealing with this and keeping it out of awareness, that person will go through life for a long period and they won't experience any fear, maybe no guilt, and they won't be, aware of their shadow or projecting it onto people. But ultimately, at the end of, we all come face to face with the shadow at the end of this life.
Yeah, the shadow I can understand, and I can understand the fear that comes up from separation, but I don't quite get the guilt part.
Yeah. You see, guilt at the end of the day, you can't have fear without the guilt. The guilt can remain hidden. And we're very, very good at hiding our guilt, as Nancy had said, because all we do is we place it onto other people.
What are we guilty of?
Huh?
What are we guilty of?
Yeah.
You see, ultimately, are you religious, Brenda?
Not particularly.
Have you heard the story of the Garden of Eden?
Oh, yeah, I've been indoctrinated. If you mean that.
Have you heard the story of the Catholic Church?
I think I'm going to wait for your book for that.
Well, ultimately, in this way, a lot of us, especially in the Western world, have been conditioned with
Yeah, of
guilt
course.
because of religion.
Right,
If we had come into this world, and maybe never encountered religion or heard anything about it, I don't know what would happen. But I'm not saying that religion has been a bad thing here. Religion's been a very good thing. Why? Why is religion a good thing? Because
Well, it does make you focus. There's an attempt to make you focus outside yourself. It may be misguided, it may be half information, but I think there's that focus.
yeah. Well, the only good characteristic that I see in religion is basically it reveals to us the identity and identical reflection of the ego thought system.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay? The ego thought system is built upon sin, guilt, and fear. Religion is built upon sin, guilt, and fear. The ego thought system is built upon a wrathful, judgmental, and vengeful God. Religion is built upon a wrathful, vengeful, and judgmental God. The ego has heaven and hell. Religion has heaven and hell. The correlations are basically endless when you keep going. Okay, so if it wasn't for religion, okay, we can now look at religion and we can see the ego thought system and all its works at play. Okay, now this is a very good thing. And basically at the end of the day we're going to show now how we reinterpret the Bible, how we reinterpret religion, and how we reinterpret everything. So here's how it works. What is projection, right? There's 4 steps in projection. Okay? The first step is a big river in Egypt.
River of denial. I row my boat down that all the time when it comes to my age.
Okay? The next step is Diane?
Guilt.
No! I did this with you yesterday.
I know, I know.
Anybody? I did these 4 stages in last Monday nights.
Well-
Few Monday nights also. Not you. What?
Judgment?
No.
Projection?
You're over to the corner. No. You're not answering.
Well, some kind of defense mechanism, wouldn't it be?
There.
It's an effect of denial. It comes in automatically.
Oh, repression.
Suppression.
Suppression.
Okay? 3rd stage.
Projection.
Yes. Okay? 4th stage. Most important of all. How do you know what you projected?
Is he reacting?
Okay? So that is the mechanisms or the mechanics that's inside projection.
How do you define suppression?
Okay?
Like
Suppression
this-
is like
this-
suppression is like repressed thoughts. It's just
Stuffing it
they're
down.
automatically pushed out of awareness. You don't know
You
you're
just
doing
ignore
it.
it
No,
and-
you don't know. It's a part of denial.
So
So,
would you say
The
that's your,
same. Suppression, repression.
Yeah.
Same.
well, you know, even denial, you work with passive aggressive. So you're denying that there's a problem and you're pushing and stuffing it inside. Okay? So denial works along with rationalization. Denial works with suppression, repression, and all of these things. So denial is the unconscious. Okay? So you don't think about denying something. We're always in denial. So let me show you here. At this stage, right, you know I work on the 3 levels. Okay? So I want to show you how projection works here and then what forgiveness actually really does. Okay? So here you have the one mind, the conscious mind that's awake. Okay? Here you have everything that's true. And it's the true right mind. Another name for this would be the Holy Spirit. What would this be? This is level 2. This is the entirety of the ego thought system. So it's everything that's false. Okay? Everything that's illusion. And this is you here.
What does the P stand for?
Personality.
Hmm.
Just put it in there at the moment. We'll clarify that up later. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. Okay? Here is the ego thought system at this level. So what happens next is the ego thought system, this is the entirety of the ego thought system here. Everything that's illusionary, everything is false. And what happens is the ego takes it down another level, you could call it into hell, all right, into level 1. And this is the physical world, the body, and the split mind. So what the ego does now, basically, goes like this. Okay? So, you have the entirety of the ego thought system here. The ego splits itself now into 2. And it has, in one room, or one part, it has everything that's good and right. And on the other side, it has everything that's bad and wrong. This could be called the yin and the yang, It can be called the ego right mind and the ego wrong mind, or it can be called the shadow and the persona. So all these symbols are on this. Yeah? You with me so far?
You said the persona and the what?
Shadow.
Shadow.
Persona,
The shadow is the dark self, all our self-hatred. Persona is the good room. That's where our self-image is, our reputation is, where our good name is. It's where all our qualifications are, our achievements are. It's all where all the nice people around us are. And we put all the bad people into the bad room. Okay, and we put all the good people into the good room. So all your dreams and your aspirations and your future are in the good room. All your memories and your past and your disasters and everything that has gone wrong is in the bad room. Okay, with me? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what's happening. Alright? These thoughts here, alright, are primary thoughts. They would be called what's unconscious thoughts. So these thoughts would consist of sin, guilt, fear, specialness, betrayal, and what else would be there? Yeah, I think that'll cover everything in there, right? So those are the primary thoughts.
What's next to fear?
Fear, specialness,
Or specialness?
okay? And then betrayal and all. So those are what you will call would be primary thoughts. And all primary thoughts then have secondary thoughts. So anybody have an idea what a secondary thought? Right? Secondary thoughts would be anger, irritation, annoyance, depression, shame, and again you would have guilt, and you'll have fear in there as secondaries. Okay?
So can you say they're just a reaction to your primary
Their effects.
effects?
Alright, so put it like this, these here would be the root of the tree. And these up here then would be the branches and the leaves of the tree. Alright? So, if you look at this now, alright, you have sin, guilt, fear, and you would have specialness in the good root. Okay? Then the anger is an effect of guilt. Every time that you're angry with someone, you're attempting to displace your guilt onto that person. Okay? So here's anger, here's the guilt up there. Shame is also a direct consequences of what? Why would you feel shameful?
Sin.
Sin. Also guilt. Okay? So what's happening here is our unconscious thoughts, and here are our subconscious thoughts. And our subconscious thoughts are all in here in these two rooms. What we have done is we have split all the thoughts that's in your mind, okay? You have them in two places. You have good thoughts and you have bad thoughts.
So guilt, fear, depression, shame, anger,
Whole lot more.
but how do you figure those are good thoughts?
No, what I'm saying is, just do this a second.
That's where,
Specialness would be good thoughts.
All right.
Fear.
there's fear up above and fear down below.
Got it.
See, they're just a rough there, right? See sin, guilt, fear up here? These are all the effects of those. Okay, so there's a whole lot of there. You have thoughts of unworthiness, thoughts of not being good enough. You know, there are many, many thoughts in there, but they're all effects of these original sin, guilt, and fear. Okay? So, still with me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's the way. This part of the mind is here. See? Which means what? No, this part of the mind is in total denial.
False.
We're in total denial of it. Yeah? We're in total denial of the sin, guilt, fear.
Okay.
Okay? So that's that part. Okay? This part is here. These thoughts now, like anger, irritation, annoyance, and all of these, what will you be doing with them? You'll be suppressing them. Why would you suppress them? They're not nice.
Yeah, I don't think they're acceptable.
You want people to like you. So you're going to automatically hide these, aren't you? Yeah. So we suppress them. All right. Now, what's the next correlation?
Projection onto a person, or
Yeah. Here's the key now. The body now projects what the mind tells it. If you just take notes for a second, I just want to then your attention to go through this. I want to go through this a step at a time. I'm going to bring this all together at the end. I'm promising you something here. If you can get this, you can get the whole course. If you don't get this, you're not going to get the course. If you can get this, you can go through your day, all right? And you're going to know what you're responsible for, what you're projecting. We're all projecting, okay? So what we have to do is sort out who's projecting what. Yeah? This is what all our arguments are over. Who's to blame for what? So imagine, just say Kate and Nancy, the two of you in an argument over who's right and who's wrong. All right. But if one of you or both of you realized who was projecting, then you would take responsibility for who's right and wrong. Isn't that true? So you would save the argument. So imagine if you knew this and how this works every day, how many arguments that you would save. How many fights with yourself you would save. You would really give yourself an easy time. Okay? So projection happens when the body projects the thought onto the world. And then the last one is the reaction again now comes from the body. Now, there's a lot of arrows going a lot of places there. This is so crucial to forgiveness. If you don't understand this, there's a line in the Course that says, you forgive your brother for what he didn't do. What did he not do?
he didn't do what you thought he did.
Yeah, but you're so sure he did because you just seen him doing it.
Or you maybe even have pictures of it.
People have videos of it. And they
Especially
show it,
on Facebook and Twitter.
and they show it to a lot of friends who are witnesses who say, I see it too. And remember then what he says in the Course, the eyes, there's nothing as blinding as perception of form. So the eyes were made to blind us from the truth. Simple as that. If you believe everything you see, you're in big trouble. Especially when you don't understand projection. The only thing that you're responsible for in this world is what you project. So you'll have a real easy time of it living in this world if you could find out what am I responsible for. Because people are taking on either not enough responsibility or they're taking on far too much responsibility that they needn't have to take. The key here is this reacting. It's only you're responsible for what you react because that's what you have denied. See here? You only react to what you deny. Right? And that's what forgiveness does. Forgiveness undoes the denial. So I want to go through this now, right, with one thought. Let's use the thought of guilt. Here we are here, an unconscious thought. We're not aware of this thought. Alright, just stay with me for a second. Now when I go through this, don't write anymore. Because this is important if you can get your head around it. Here's the thought we're all attached to, let's say guilt. Roy doesn't like this thought. Don't you not? So the guilt comes down into your subconscious, alright? And it comes down into anger. We're still not aware of it, but we can start to feel anger coming up in the body. Maybe a little bit. Okay? And we still don't do anything. So the anger here is in the bad room. Here. Okay? So the next thing what happens is the thought of anger comes into the awareness of the body. Again, we're not in charge of anything that's happening. Because this is happening. Here. The denial up there, the suppression down into there, and now what happens is the projection into the world. Okay? So this means that someone has said something that wasn't very nice, or did something that wasn't very nice, and you have reacted to it. Okay? Here's what forgiveness does. Forgiveness now, alright, takes this thought. Here's the anger, which is guilt, which you have denied. You know now that this thought belongs to you because you reacted to it in the body here. This is vital information for us because what's keeping people asleep, what's keeping people in pain and suffering is these unconscious thoughts here. We can't get at them. You can't sit in a meditation and go straight into this part of the mind. The only way we can heal that mind is by seeing it in the world here, here, here. So all of these thoughts here and here will end up here in the world. Because everything you react to in the world is what you're attached to. And we're all attached to this mind of what is false. So detaching from that mind is what forgiveness does.
What would you be attached to? Guilt?
The story.
In this case?
The story. In this case, guilt, yeah. Guilt produces anger. It's in the bad room, in the shadow. Comes into your awareness in the body. We project it onto the world. It's like poison to us, so the body naturally exposes it out. And the way that we do that is we find somebody who's guilty of something in the world, like Nancy was saying. So, here, these steps. Okay? This is what the whole course is about. It's about detachment. That's what forgiveness is. As long as we stay attached to this mind, okay, we stay attached to these two concepts of good, bad, right, and wrong.
So all the sin, guilt, fear, all of that, all of that, the primary thoughts the ego has comes from the fact that we separated.
No,
No,
because we didn't separate.
but we believe we did.
Yes.
It comes from the belief that we
Yes.
separated.
Yes. And that story was totally made up so that we would know ourselves, as we discussed in the first one. We'll be doing that in the very last class also. We'll be bringing this all together at the very end. But ultimately in this, all right, here is the problem.
Could you say forgiveness is a state of mind, an action, or a thought? Or,
All three.
okay,
Because you need the state of mind to apply forgiveness. Because the ego doesn't like forgiveness. Because you're detaching from the ego. That's what forgiveness does. So this is why the ego come in with its own forms of forgiveness. Forgiveness to destroy. Okay? So there are 4 versions of that. And we'll go into that when we come into it. forgiveness. But ultimately in this, a state of mind, if you're willing to practice forgiveness, a state of mind is vital. Then the action, of course. But forgiveness is a thought also. Forgiveness is detachment. Forgiveness is taking responsibility. Forgiveness saying, the problem is mine. All of those are what forgiveness is.
So forgiveness is a focus on yourself, not the outside world. You're not forgiving the world out there.
You can't forgive another person. You can't forgive what another person does.
What
So
did you mean
don't
by-
even try.
What did you mean by forgive what he doesn't do?
Well, that we're going to get into forgiveness. I just want to cover.
Okay.
I wanted to cover projection first to show you what forgiveness does.
Gotcha.
So this is what forgiveness does. Forgiveness undoes the denial, the thought that's in the mind. Okay. Now we're not deliberately in this world consciously denying thoughts. This is happening in the unconscious mind. And in the unconscious mind is the story where we believe we have committed a sin against God, or we believe we have separated from God, or whatever story you want to put onto it, it doesn't matter. We're all here. Okay? So it's about undoing the story. Yeah? So it's important to remember there's no separation, there's only the belief in separation that needs to be done, and that means here is the story that we're attached to. And the story consists of sin, guilt, and fear. This story would be different in the East, but I don't know the Buddhist story. I don't know Islam's story. All of those stories. But this is the story of the West, of Christianity, of religion. So we're all connected to this story whether we're aware of it or not. Yeah? So, any questions now on projection? Because you'll never get forgiveness if you don't understand what you're actually doing here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I haven't been into this very long, but when I went, I've been trying to do forgiveness. And I was really patting myself on the back, you know, oh boy, I'm getting this is working, okay. Then my husband did something over the weekend
Mm-hmm.
that I went into such a reaction. I don't think I've reacted that way in a long time. I just went into this total thing. And I thought, okay, you know that it isn't him, and you have to take responsibility for this. But you know something? I didn't want to.
Well, you know something? That is like taking responsibility. Because you were being honest. I had another friend who was basically in the wrong mind for 2 days. She knew she was in the wrong mind and didn't want to come out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, how's this going to work if you don't? I know you're attached to the story there, but
Yeah. You see, all you're attached to, it's not that you're attached to the story, but there's a part of you that's attached to the story. And that part of you is saying, I'm the boss. I don't want to forgive. All right? Now, there's another part of you who's taking a course, who's going on basically to wake up. But the false self, the ego self, this part of yourself here, basically is the part that has so much resistance, really doesn't want to forgive. And if you are going to forgive, it'll find a way. Did you forgive him? Or did you try to forgive what he was doing? So when you were doing the forgiveness, or thinking about it, did you do the forgiveness, Nando? No?
did I do it? I tried to do the forgiveness.
But so that means you didn't do it.
No, I didn't.
Right. So let's go through it. Okay. What happened was, the thought was there, all right? Was the thought of guilt or fear, or what was the irritation or annoyance? What was the thought at this level here?
At that level.
What, is it
I
in that
was
sheet?
really pissed.
Yeah, well, is it in that sheet there?
Is it here?
No, you know that sheet in front of you.
Level?
Here.
Here.
Oh,
No,
on here.
is it there?
Something there.
Anger, yeah. And you know, I think a lot of it had to do with my feeling of being unworthy.
Yeah. Oh, of course. All coming from guilt. All the effects of guilt. So what we do in our relationships, Nancy, is we place the guilt on someone, and we leave it sitting there. All right, you haven't aware that you've done this, and then the first error that that person makes that you just pounce, the guilt's already been on there. So, you know, in all of this, that's really good for you. You have been really honest with your synopsis of the whole thing that you didn't want to do it, and then if you do want to do it, you know now what it is. Here was you, all right. Here was him in the world. So the guilt come down here into the anger, into the bedroom, into your mind. You projected it onto him, and then you react.
Yeah, yeah.
So what forgiveness does now, forgiveness basically comes up to here and takes out denial by taking responsibility. That's all forgiveness does. You see, you might have a story about yourself in the story. All right? And what I found what people were doing is they're kind of looking at this and saying, what does that say about me? Have you ever heard this? Do you know? You see, that's someone who really doesn't want to give up the story.
Who doesn't what?
Want to give up the story. You know, there is no stories at the end of the day. There's just blocks. And we can build stories around this. We can build stories around this. And this is what we do. And we project all these stories in here. But no matter what relationship that you have, no matter who it's with, you have stories that's coming out of here.
I have a question. If we're sitting in our living room watching the news and we see on TV a human who drinks and then drives and kills a family of 4, including the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, why should I be sitting in the chair forgiving myself what I thought about his actions? Why should I do that?
But how did it make you feel looking at that? Were you angry?
Yeah, sure.
Should you be angry?
I thought I had a right to be. He's an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been the one that died and not the family he killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog,
So
which
you're
really
justified.
ticks me off.
So you're justified.
Pardon?
You're justified.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, but I mean you're justified being angry with this person.
No. See, I don't live my life like that.
I'm sorry, I'm lost again.
I know, no. What I'm, it's
Because
okay.
you kind of said that you
no,
were
no.
right to be angry with him. Now you're saying you're not right to be angry.
No. Just as a question, not about me,
Yeah.
but just as an example. Let's just say someone's sitting in a chair in their living room, sees this, and they
React.
Yeah, why should they have to forgive themselves? Because
Well-
of what they feel?
Well, two things are going to happen here, Nancy. That person has reacted, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. You can feel justified in the reaction and say, right, that's an idiot, as you said. But there's something else. Everything's information. So because of that person has reacted with anger, what is that person's state of mind? Is that person happy? Is that person living in bliss every day? Is that person reacting to... No, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Is that person reacting to every single thing? Okay, the problem is not the idiot who did all of that. The problem is this person is not living in bliss.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So here it is. See this room and this room. Everything that you see in the world here comes from here.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're going to see things that are right, things that are good, and things that are wrong and things that are bad. Okay, so that person sitting in that room is attached to this mind. This is the ego. The ego's concept is this, that there is good and bad and right and wrong. Is there? Can there be? What kind of a world would that leave? This world. You see, everybody thinks that the world is dualistic. It's not. The mind is dualistic. We project that mind onto the world. What does the Course say about the world?
It's neutral.
Completely neutral. What does the Course say about the body?
Neutral.
Completely neutral. This is what takes away that neutrality. We're attached to this mind. Okay, so I would look at that, and that person ultimately is sacrificing themselves. What that person is doing is they're drinking the poison and they're expecting the other person to die. There will come a time when you wake up and you basically won't react to anything.
Right.
That's the time that you're here. That's the goal in all of us. So for someone to sit in a room and be justified that I'm right to be angry with that person, that's okay, you're going to stay here. You know, that mindset is a mindset of hell. Because that person will have up days, down days, good days, bad days. Okay, when I have people that are right, people that are wrong, people that are good, people that are evil. You can't have one without the other. So what this is really all about is this forgiveness now, right, is about reinterpretation. And we're going to come back to this. I'm not going to go into it now, but when this is here now, I just want to cover it. How do we reinterpret these two rooms?
Forgiveness.
Yeah?
By detaching.
What else?
It's just conditioning.
No.
But you need that perception.
We need two symbols to go in here instead of what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's bad.
Can you say that again?
We need two symbols to go in here.
Oh,
What would you put in here instead of what's in there? You see, this is the apple in the Garden of Eden. You know, the apple grew on the tree of knowledge of good and evil and right and wrong.
So we could put Adam and Eve.
Eve would go here.
So we could go.
All right, here's the key up here. Here.
false and true.
You just have to hear me saying this. We must reinterpret this mind now, what is true and what is false. We bring it to this level. Alright? Because when you're looking at what's true here now, you're bringing yourself to this mindset. When you're bringing what's not true, what's illusion, you're still bringing yourself up to this mindset. But if you're choosing what's right and wrong or what's good and bad, you stay here. And if you're justified in seeing someone who's done something either right or wrong or good and bad, all you're doing is putting yourself still here. The whole goal here, Kate, is to get to here.
Right,
Okay? To get to there, we need to get to here.
right.
That's what forgiveness does. Forgiveness takes us to level 2. It's detaching completely from level 1, which is the body, the world, and the split mind.
And so what is true?
Sorry.
That's okay, I didn't hear,
Yeah,
I didn't know who I was.
I was looking at you and I heard here, but
I was asking, so what is true?
well, tell us, what's true? What's true in the world?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh no,
No.
there is something true.
Oh, just love, pure love, but that
Love.
really isn't manifest in the world.
Well, I mean, you look at nature.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Look at birds, look at the animals, look at the love all around you. There's love all around us, but we don't see it because we're attached to this. You know, we're attached to these ideas of good and bad and right and wrong, and we're projecting it onto everything. And this is all we see because we're coming from this unconscious mind of sin, guilt, fear, darkness. Now, there are people out there and they're having great lives because they're very good at concealing all of this. There's nobody in this world that doesn't have all of this. If you're here in a body, then you're a part of this. This is the DNA or the genetic code for anybody that's here. Okay? So, when you look at people, don't be thinking that, you know, you're the only one like this. Everybody's like this. Sorry, Julie.
Well, I think this might have pertained to, my question was kind of connected to Gloria's, and I've been using for myself, I kind of am always looking for, I call them my tools, toolbox or shortcuts. And
Yeah.
if something, seemingly bad happens, or guilt, fear, sin, pop in, anger pops in, I right away go to, okay, that's the category. I know this is the ego's material. I'm taking this right to Holy Spirit. I know it's not true.
Yeah.
I just know it's not true.
That's all
If
you
it
have to
makes me feel bad in any way, pick any of those
Yeah.
words, I know it's not true. And isn't that what the Course means by being above the battleground?
Yeah,
It may
exactly.
look like
Here's the
the
battleground.
family died and the dog died and oh, we gotta blame somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, is that what we're supposed to be
Yeah.
looking at?
Yeah. You see, this
Huge
is.
cry for love in alcoholic driving, huge.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But again, you could look at the truth. Did the dog die? Did
Well,
anybody,
did any of them
anybody
die?
die?
No.
Is there that?
And plus the fact, was that an accident? Of course,
I don't
clearly
know.
tells us there's no accidents. You see, what people forget here is we write our scripts, we come in here, we write our lines, but the Course tells us also no one dies without their own consent, and there's no accidents. So it doesn't matter who gets into a car anywhere, there's all appointed at a time as exit points. There's many people coming in here, there's people leaving here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so it would be chaos if, for example, no one had an appointed time that they would leave. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So this is all planned, and not only that, Kate, it's already over and done with a long time ago.
But see, I already know this.
Yeah.
I already know that.
Yeah. So ultimately in this, right, it's reinterpretation. When you reinterpret these two, you're really going taking yourself into that higher level of consciousness here. Okay?
So then there's nothing to hand over.
Yeah. But let's look at another point about true. Love is true, right? But what is the truth in any story? Because in our lives, right, we have many people coming and telling us many stories. We see it in the news, we see it in the TV. So we had one story there now that you told. We reinterpreted that story with the truth. So let's say you see something and someone gets killed right in front of you. You know, our natural reaction is to think this person's been killed. But you could stand there now and bring the truth to that situation. That person didn't die because there's no death. That person has chosen to die at that exact moment. That person has chosen that person to kill that person at that exact moment because there's no accidents. So you can look at any situation now here with all the tools that you have, and you can bring the truth to every one of them. You see someone arguing and roaring and shouting at someone else. What's going on? Denial, suppression, projection, reaction. Both of them are trying to, I don't want the guilt, you take it. No, you take it. No, you take it. No, you take it. When two people are shouting at each other, that's all they're trying to do. They've got the ball and they're passionate. You shout for a while and throw it back to me and I'll throw it to you. So we all have this ball, and this ball is not very nice. Okay? And we're trying to get, here, catch that. We're trying to basically get rid of it. Do you know? And this is all we're trying to do. And that's where the pain, the suffering, the conflict, everything that's in our lives, the disasters comes from. So when someone throws you the ball from now on, you have to hold it and love it. Bring it into your heart. It's the only way it's going to dissolve. Okay? So if there's no questions in that,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I have a question, go back a few minutes to, I think it was Nancy's sharing about you're doing really well in your, if I understood you right, Nance, doing really well in her program and forgiveness and kind of patting herself on the back and saying, I'm pretty good. As soon as she said that, I went, uh-oh, because whenever I've done that, false pride, it's like, get ready, ego's going to speak fast and loud. He's coming in. Sorry for calling him a he. But I've kind of, in practicing, I always think of this as like Carnegie Hall. The only way you're going to get there is practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of practicing. I'm just really gentle with my pride about whatever. I just go, okay, I'm getting closer to the real world. I'm getting closer to the truth. And it's a real gentle voice. I stay away from patting myself on the back because that's like a ticket for my ego to come on and
Yeah.
hard and fast. Am I making that up, or is that just a pattern I've made up, or does that seem to be
Yeah,
true
no,
in the
no,
illusion?
no, you're perfect, you're perfect. Like,
That
you know.
does seem to
Yeah,
be true.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to know, am I the only one that's like
I
getting
mean,
that ego like?
but
giving
again,
a
don't
ticket
give
to-
yourself a hard time for that, because that's ego
Right.
punishing ego then. You know, you do something
Right.
good and then you feel pride about it, you know, which might, like you're right, you know. But there's nothing wrong with feeling good that you've actually
Right.
achieved something. You know, don't, as long as you don't project that onto other people then, like, you know, if you see the truth in that and give yourself a wee pat in the back, you know, because there's nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself in this world. So it's only a problem when it comes that you're feeling good about yourself at someone else's expense.
Right.
You've just practiced forgiveness
Right.
and you're feeling good about that, so feel good about that. Because you've done something, you've just practiced a miracle. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
so it'd be
yes.
different, you know, if I went to do something now, say, ran and opened the door and say Brando was going out and I wanted to impress Brando and all of that, like, you know, and I'd come back feeling all proud of myself, you know, that I've done this little thing,
Yeah.
like, you know, well, I'm seeking something from him, I'm not being honest, so that's all the false pride.
Right, it's like a
Yeah.
puffiness of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the effects of
Yeah.
practicing true forgiveness won't make you feel good, but the ego will try to come in and say, oh, this was false pride. Remember, the ego's very...
right.
So always look at the content of the action that you've just taken.
Very good. Yeah.
What was your motivation behind that action? So anytime that you're questioning your pride, just look at where it's coming from and say, is this coming from something that I did that was true love, that was, you know, for everybody? Because the way this works is, when you do something for yourself, always calibrate it by this. Is this good for everybody?
Mm.
And when you're doing something for somebody else, always look at it and say, is this good for me? Because what's good for you should be good for everybody. And what's good for everybody should be good enough for you. What we're doing here, forgiveness breaks down the barriers of separation.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Could you make another comment on what you mean by hold it into your heart?
You see, inside, if you, and I would say this to everybody, right, have a symbol of love. Have a symbol of something that's pure within you. All right, and to me, I use my heart. You know, because in my heart, there's the light of truth. There's everything that's true in it, here and here. And when Jesus says, when you bring illusions to truth, when you bring the darkness to the light, when you bring fear into love, then everything that's not true dissolves in that love. So what we're doing is, people, when pain comes into the body, when guilt arises, anger arises, our first reaction is to get rid of it onto other people. Okay? So what we're doing now is doing the opposite of that. So when pain now comes in, or any upset or discomfort, you just put your arms around yourself and bring it in, and the love and the light in your heart, that symbol that's inside you, will basically melt anything that's not true. So again, this is about not jumping to the ego's tune. You're angry, the ego says, that person, that person, that person, that person. But when you go, no, hold on a minute, I've reacted, has to be my stuff, it's mine. You've chosen against the ego. You don't have to hand anything over. Why? Because this was always the key in forgiveness.
Because you've accepted it.
Well, you have basically stopped denying it.
Right.
You see,
right.
the ego
Right.
is denying. And now, forgiveness basically takes out denial, which takes out suppression. You're not projecting that denied thought now anymore, and now there's nothing to react to. So, this is the procession that keeps going all the time. So every thought that comes up here that you're denying, you'll see it in the world. Okay, so what you do now is you keep practicing forgiveness, and everything comes out of this mindset here, comes out of here and here into the world. You let go. So what you're really doing is you're emptying the trash. Okay? You're getting rid of everything that's not true. And this is the process of what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is emptying this mind, and this mind. That's all it is. It's not about you making up for anything, or anybody did anything on you, or anything else. You have believed a story in your mind that's simply not true. The reason why that happened, we'll get in the last class. We'll cover all of that, but not today. What's the time?
11.
I have one more question. Okay, I have a friend that's very much believes she's a victim.
You have a friend that's, I'm just speaking up for the camera.
She believes
She believes she's a victim. Yeah?
She's been raped. She's been homeless. She gets a job, she loses it. She gets a car, she loses it. And on and on and on. The pattern just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating ever since I've known her. So it can all be traced back to the primary thought of loss.
Well, in her particular case, she believes that she's guilty, and she's chosen a life now where she's going to consistently punish herself for that guilt, playing the victim. And this is the ego's answer, or the ego's version of atonement. The ego says you atone through suffering. So you look at the last 2,000 years in religion, you know what what do you call it?
Flagellation.
Yeah, flagellations. There used to be torture. There used to be burns at the stake. All of these things were all sacrificed for the atonement to make up for the great wrong that we did to God. So what people do is they're unconscious, they're writing their scripts, and they believe that they're guilty, and they need to go through this process of atonement with the ego, which means I'm going to bloody suffer. We have done this for the last 2,000 years. You know, and that's why the course is here now is enough's enough. So all that person can step out of that energy at any time she chooses by taking full responsibility for everything in her life.
But she wouldn't.
Well, of course not. Why?
Because
What is the purpose of someone playing the victim? What's her reward? Nancy, do you know it? Why do you play the victim?
attention.
Yeah,
No.
attention.
Yeah, of course, but what else? Something much greater.
So you feel better than the person who's the perpetrator? So you feel better than the person who's the perpetrator?
How would you feel better?
Because I'm the good one, I'm the victim,
Yes.
that's the
I'm
bad
a
one.
good one,
That's it.
too.
You get to blame the other person for everything that's wrong. Because that person will have a whole list of people that they're projecting their guilt onto, and they're saying is, you are responsible for how I feel. See, we all feel shitty. And it's our responsibility that we don't take it. So what we're all looking to do is to get someone to blame, so, like Roy says, we get to feel better about ourselves. That's why people choose the victim. They get to blame the other person, project the guilt, and be justified on it, because this really happened. You know? We're all victims. We're all victims of the ego and the ego thought system. But take it another level, we're all victims of ourselves. Okay? And we're victims of ourselves because we have given our power over to the ego. We give our power over to other people. And then they hurt us for it. But you give them the bloody power in the first place. You know, you give the ego the power. So we'll take a little break now for 5 minutes. Anybody wants to use the bathroom or get a cup of coffee, and give us 10 minutes and we'll come back then. We're going to get started into forgiveness. So that's projection.